What's up, landlords? I got Mike here. I'm just going to have a chat with him about real estate. I met him on X and we haven't communicated besides this. So, do you want to give a quick intro, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely, Renee. Thank you for having me, man. Enjoy your content on X and was happy to get the invite. So I appreciate it. My name is Mike, just turned 40 years old. Got two kids, a 5-year-old son, 3-year-old daughter. Beautiful wife, been married for 11 and a half years. Certainly married up. My old man told me it wasn't worth to get married unless you do marry up. So I took his advice. She's by far my best investment in life. So we've been going at real estate for only 18 months. I was an old man before I bought my first property, but I got obsessed with real estate investing in the summer of 2022. Binge listened to some podcasts, a couple hundred, maybe 300, and fell into that point where I've done deep dives on several topics and just never took action on some. But I was convinced that real estate, in my opinion, is the best way to create generational wealth. So I didn't want to fall into analysis paralysis. I was able to get my wife to listen to some podcasts with me, and she hopped on board. And by the time she said yes, I already knew exactly what property I had been eyeing, and we were able to follow that for about a month, watch the price drop a little bit, and then attack and get our first property. So we have one condo that was a condo, no association dues or anything like that. It's a two-family. We own one unit. And then a year later, October of 2023, we bought our first two family. And we've got both units filled in that. We were able to get the 1% rule, which is, the golden standard, but very, very, very tough to do, especially in my market in southeastern Massachusetts and Rhode Island. But two good tenants, just good people. So we've got those two properties right now. And we're focused on paying down HELOC principal this year because we use that to help us get into the down payments and everything. So possibly going to cash out refi to get our money out and maybe purchase another property this year. But if not, we'll be on the lookout in the coming months as well. So that's the quick intro, or maybe not quick, but there you go.
No, that's good. I appreciate you hitting the high points because I want to do something a little different with you because I noticed you've been on many podcasts and you are surely definitely the inspired landlord with your posting and it's optimistic and on X. And that's how I found you. And since you've been on so many podcasts and I've watched them all and I've followed you on X for a while and I've read your blog, I want to tell you everything I know about you and you can correct anything. And ultimately where I'm getting at is I'm a do-it-yourself landlord and I like doing property management systems because I worked a lot in Iraq and I had to figure out ways to manage my properties kind of like not even autopilot, more like hands off because I'm on the opposite side of the world in a backwards time zone, slow internet. You just can't get a hold of me. So I had to build systems and I developed what I call self-service property management. So I started enabling my tenants to take matters in their own hands. And I started taking a back seat and I started helping my tenants fix their problems. So I got a pretty robust FAQ section on my website. I have a home warranty in the lease. I have 3 different steps how to handle maintenance. I have videos, how to tutorials to show them how to like change air filters and when typical household problems come up, I'm like, hey, let me enable you and help you to resolve this because you're not going to be able to get a hold of me and I don't use property managers. So ultimately I'm going to get to where I'm asking you questions about how you property manage and all that stuff. That's what I want. But right now, first I'm going to start with, I think you're a Patriots fan, correct?
I'll just back up a little bit and show you the shirt. So
Yeah.
nailed that one. Yes.
And you, even though your son is named Brady, you didn't name him after Tom Brady.
No, we did not. You're very astute, I see. No, my wife just really liked Brady, and I had never even really considered it. I kind of liked Tyson when I was like younger and talking about those names, just because I wanted to be able to call him Ty. Because speaking of Patriots, when I was younger, Ty Law was my favorite player, so I always was leaning toward Tyson to call him Ty. But when my wife said Brady, I was like, you know what, that's fine. But he is not named after Tom Brady. He could be one day if Tom Brady never messes up in life. Maybe we'll lean that way, but no, it's just Brady right now, not named after the goat.
Love it. All right, you and your wife are both in local news. you both are just basically in that. We don't need to go into it, but your side hustles are email marketing and you're a realtor in two different states.
Yeah.
Um,
So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, we both got when my wife was pregnant with Brady. Um, this was, 6 years ago at this point. She was only working part time, and she was like, "Mike, I got to do something," because she's like the hardest worker I know. She kind of motivates me to work my tail off. She's like, "I got to do something. I'm going nuts." So I actually was doing Facebook ads and I was going around to different realtors at the time, just trying to get my own little side hustle going. And the realtor said, "Why don't you guys become realtors?" And my wife was like, "You know what? We're going to." So we took the 40 hours of classes together. We studied for about 5 hours, took the exam, passed, became realtors with that brokerage. And we've been licensed in Massachusetts since then for about 6 years. And just last year, I got my license in Rhode Island. It was just doing some paperwork. I didn't have to take an exam or anything. My wife is not licensed in Rhode Island, but I am. I did it primarily because I knew we'd be looking for rental properties in Rhode Island. So we just figured, you know what, if we're going to be purchasing rental properties, why not get the commissions for ourselves rather than handing it to somebody else and then use that money for repairs or maintenance or upgrades. So that was realtors. And then the side hustle email marketing, it's an awesome story. I started that back when I started doing Facebook ads in like 2018, and I met an eye doctor who I actually go to for my eye care. And it turns out he has 51 doors himself. He is a huge remote and local landlord. So he has just been an awesome mentor. He's like one of my best friends at this point, and he'll call me every Tuesday on his way to the office, and we'll just talk real estate. We'll talk about his eye care practice. We'll talk about life, business. He's just an awesome mentor to me. So he's kind of shown me the ropes as far as real estate as well, and just helps provide some perspective on that. So I got very lucky. But the email marketing itself, I write emails. I write story-based emails with the call to action being book your appointment right now. Click this button. It's going to take 30 seconds to book your appointment, and then we'll see you on the day that that appointment is. So I just enjoy storytelling. I got away from, I used to be a producer in local news. Now I'm an executive producer, a manager. And when I became an EP, I stopped writing. And that is all that writing's always been my creative outlet. So when I stopped writing, I had to fill that void and I found that perfect side hustle. I wanted something I could do from my couch, um, you know, and just telling stories. So that was like a perfect thing. And, you know, it pays well. It's an eye doctor. That's my other piece of advice. If you're looking for a good side hustle that can do well, try to find a niche that or a niche, however you want to say it, a high paying ticket. Because it'll take me an hour to write an email, and if he books one appointment from that, he's getting a huge return. But it pays, pretty good for a little side hustle. So those are my main ones.
That's great, and I could tell you got skills when I read your blog. I struggle with that stuff, and I can recognize when people are excelling and doing good at it. My wife is kind of like that as well. And on your
Yeah.
X, I guess you shared somewhere that you're doing this, you're documenting your journey, and you're there to learn. You want to connect with others, inspire others, be inspired, and hold yourself accountable. That's correct.
Yeah, Renee, you did your homework, man. That's exactly why I'm on X. And real quick, while we're live, I just want to say thank you for your service. I know you mentioned serving our country in Iraq, so thank you for that, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you recognizing it, because I did see that your father was in the Air Force and you're a veteran. Because I noticed one of your posts and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, man. He used to work. So I was born in Germany on an Air Force base in Bitburg, Germany. It's no longer an Air Force base now, but back in the early to mid 80s is when I was there for only 2 years. So unfortunately, I don't remember anything. But after Bitburg, we moved to Eglin Air Force Base in the Panhandle of Florida. Stayed there until I was 7, and then both of my parents are originally from Massachusetts, so we moved up. My old man got sick. He had, a medical honorable discharge from the military after 10 years of service, but he was fixing fighter jets, F-16, um, used in Desert Storm. So that was kind of his claim to fame there. And he went on to work on nuclear medicine machines to help people and ultimately ended up working in hospitals to help fix machines under very tight deadlines like we need this fixed now. So he's always taken the service approach. So yeah, he's definitely did his part to help our country, I guess.
Yep. And for sure, I'd like to recognize you because I know the whole family sacrifices. I was actually in the Air Force. I was security forces. It's like the military police equivalent. And I deployed 4 times to the Middle East within 6 years. After I got done doing that, I started working as a civilian private contractor doing security, diplomatic protection in the embassy in Baghdad, Iraq. And it's just always gone, lots of sacrifices, dangerous, you could die over there. So the way I set up my rental property is I kind of wanted to run itself and be able to hand it off to my wife if anything happened to me. I was like, hey, there's just one primary email you got to operate with. This one email you'll be able to kind of understand everything. And I share all the passwords with her using this one email with a vault system. And like, it was a concern of mine. So that's part of my unfair advantage, because I was able to systematize everything and really be keen to making it simple. And also I thought about my kids. I have 3 kids. I want to hand this down to them, and I don't want them to sell my rentals immediately after I'm gone, because a lot of real estate investors talk about how they get good deals because they bought multiple units from some kids because their parents died. It's because it's complicated. One person might have a passion, like the most likely it's the dad, and they really haven't built it in a way to hand it off, and they haven't encouraged the family to kind of partake into it. And I think it's a shame, because that's a lot of energy and effort to box it up and maintain it and serve tenants and everything, and then just to sell out and miss out on all that future cash flow.
I agree, man. I hear you, and I'm with you on that. I ultimately want my children to, pass it down to them. So I kind of take them to some open houses, and I take them to the property with us sometimes, and just show them how we help other people. So I've got my 5-year-old and 3-year-old saying, "Daddy, when are we going back to our house to help?" They call it our house, to help other people. So just kind of putting those little seeds in nice and early, those little touch points, if you will. But I'm with you, man. I want to be able to pass it on, and I think it would be a shame if that wasn't the case. So
Yep.
yeah, I love
That's
what you're
awesome.
doing.
Because I think you're a believer, and I know in the Bible it says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And I grew up really poor, and I didn't have much help from my parents, so I definitely am trying to do at least my part when it comes to that. I feel like things with inflation is just getting so expensive, and you see a lot of young kids complaining about it on TikTok now. I just think it's going to get worse. If the parents don't help the kids, they will really feel lost. I think it's kind of already happening. So I want to try to give them a head start as best I can.
I mean, I'm with you on that. I appreciate what you just said, because um, the whole world is at everyone's fingertips now. I think I was like, when I was late teens, early 20s, Twitter wasn't a thing. I didn't have the whole world, cell phones were just kind of starting out. Um, you have the whole world. You have so much information, even like, communities coming together on X, on YouTube, on everything. Those things were just kind of getting started when I was coming up. So, man, I wish I had that. And perhaps I would have discovered rental properties and been work optional by now and all that. But I'm glad it's available now. And I hope that while social media can be very negative and toxic for mental health and everything, there are a lot of positives. And I hope that the younger generation can find those communities, latch onto them to make themselves better, and to ultimately make the world better, to be honest. But I feel you on that, and I appreciate your comments on it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm trying to start a free landlord community for DIY landlords, and it's in school. I don't know if you heard about school, but Sam Ovens and Alex Hermosi are kind of running that, and it's
Yeah.
a free community. And I'm just like putting everything I know in there, and I'd love to have my kids active in there. And I remember when I first started, I first used a property manager because I was worried about the liability, and there's this big unknown. And also, when I talked to my property manager, he made it seem like, oh, you definitely want to use me, because obviously he's got a conflicted bias towards he wants my business. So
Right.
I'm like, I don't know, but it was a big leap of faith when I did it. I realized it's actually easy, because I had a gut feeling. I was like, man, I feel like I could do this, and I didn't like every invoice he's sending me, and I'm paying him. I'm like, man, I don't feel like he's doing much work. So when I took over and started learning it, I did it all on my own. I was into the Bigger Pockets forums, and there's just so much noise and so many different distractions. Oh, people are hoteling, flipping, there's like buy and hold, and then there's people multifamily, single family. How do I even carve out my niche? What is good for me and my family and my location, what I want to do? It was a lot, but I honed it all down. And now I'm trying to say, hey, this is what I learned. This is my strategy. And then I want to encourage other landlords to get in there because synergy and all the input. And I want to make it more community based. And I understand nobody wants another platform and everything, but it's just the reason why I like schools. It's very focused on productive niche of some sort, and there's no distractions. X is pretty entertaining, but there's a lot of distractions on there. I get interrupted. I lose track of time and go off on rabbit holes. But on school, there's no ads. There's nothing but that one community and only people talking about that one thing. So I don't know. I what you were saying about the kids and getting in communities involved and all at the fingertips, that's what it made me think of.
I love it. Love it. I'm gonna have to hop in there then.
Oh, please. I would love to have you. I know you have a powerful why with the scary story that you said about your son and your wife and how it really brought you close together, which is awesome. And I believe in a household, like husband, wife together, because it's hard, especially go it alone out here and the struggles and sacrifice. Also, I think you're a good leader because you're sacrificing working really late at night. I used to do mid shifts and working 12 hours. So I know that you're sacrificing now so you don't have to sacrifice later, and you're setting a good example for your son specifically, and you and your wife, the way you act. I think that's also a good example for your son and daughter. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, Renee. I appreciate it. You talk about sacrifice with me, and then I think about what you did for our country, man. It's not even comparable, but I appreciate your kind words.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it was a blessing because I grew up in the trailer parks, going to bed hungry, just bad influences all around. So it was a really good thing for me to escape into the military, learn lots of discipline. And I guess I was kind of made for it because for me, it's kind of, I started liking it and I was like, oh, it's not that bad. It's easy. But now I'm getting into the areas where I don't know so much. I know you did the HELOC strategy and stuff like that. And I thought your buy box was, southeastern Massachusetts and then Rhode Island and multifamily, but I thought I saw you somewhere else talking about that you might be looking to remote invest further away. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So I connected with a guy named Aaron Amin on X. Great guy, father, just like you and I, has a W-2 that he enjoys, and he is a remote real estate investor. He's got 8 properties, and he and another guy by the name of Nathan Murith, they just kicked off their first cohort for a class that I'm taking called Remote Real Estate Academy. And it's a 12-week thing. We meet every Wednesday, and it just kind of opened my eyes to the possibility of actually doing it remotely. I always kind of a couple of years ago thought I would just buy properties near me so I could go there, be physically able to stop by and everything. But the numbers up here are just so darn tough that everything is stupid expensive. With that said, the rents are usually higher, and you can still make some cash flow on deals. But a HELOC for $200,000 can go farther. You can buy more properties in a place like Columbus, Ohio, which is kind of the market I'm focusing on now. Just doing basic research, kind of dipping my toes into the market. If I were to go into that market, it would be single family homes. You could get a nice one for 185, 150, maybe a little cheaper. But going back to my eye doctor mentor, I reached out to him. I said, hey, do you know anybody who invests in Columbus? He's like, oh yeah, my partner does. And he has his business partner. He's got 150 units and he lives in Columbus. I'm like, jackpot. So it's just about building community,
Mm-hmm.
just like you're doing, and just asking questions. And you never know where that path is going to lead. So now all of a sudden I've got this awesome hookup with a guy who lives in Columbus, who has 150 units and actually manages them himself. It's his full-time thing. So just always asking questions and trying to connect with people.
Is the guy in Columbus, is he local managing that 150?
Yeah, he lives in Columbus. Yep. He
Okay.
lives in
Yeah. So you
Columbus.
definitely
Yep.
got a leg up on that. That might be an unfair advantage for you. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I can be an advocate for the long distance management of like less than 10 rentals kind of thing, because I really feel like it's manageable, and it also will give you something to stay busy when you retire. Because I did learn a lesson when I lost my civilian job, because I was in sales here locally in Orlando where I'm at when COVID happened, and then I couldn't get a job anymore, so I ended up going back overseas working in Iraq. But the bills were paid with the rentals. Fortunately, God blessed my rental tenants better than me because they didn't lose their job, but I was able to pay all the bills, but I had no purpose. I used to go to the gym all the time and everything, and the next thing you know, I'm sleeping in later and later, not doing anything, watching TV, and I realized that was like a little semi-retirement scare for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've heard about this. People work like 40 years and then they retire and they die right after. And I'm like, man, I need to make sure I pursue some type of hobby that keeps me involved, held accountable. I'm serving other people and stuff. So then that's why I started putting myself out here, and I created my website, foreverlandlord.com, and I got a Forever Landlord YouTube channel. And I'm like, look, I need something to keep me busy if the bills are paid in retirement, and managing my own properties is easy nowadays. I'm going to keep doing that, get my kids involved. And it's actually kind of fun for me sometimes to go do inspections and get involved. I don't do too much because I still like my hands off style, but that just came out. I just had to say that.
Yeah, no, I love every single bit of that.
Yeah, so it is possible. You can invest from afar and everything, and I would encourage you, if you got unfair advantage already, start doing it. And if you do put together stuff, you learn lessons, and you post anything on X, and you happen to might be willing to share some of that stuff in school, that'd be awesome. How you figure out stuff. I'm gonna get in these questions now, actually.
Yeah.
So you said that you wanted like 3 to 6. You have 3 right now. And in 2024, you kind of holding back a little bit, and now you're paying down the HELOCs.
Yeah, kind of. So you're right. I do ultimately want 3 to 6. So we have 3 doors, 2 properties. We've got the condo, and then the 2 family. So 2 doors there, but 2 physical properties. This year, like you said, I am looking to pay down HELOC. We've got 2 right now, and we just want to get the principal down on those to minimize risk. We knew that not ton, but there are risks involved when you invest in anything. But we had to. That was our best way to get into our first property, was to use a HELOC against our primary residence to get cash for the down payment on our first one. So that's what we did. This year, like I said, yeah, focusing on HELOC principal, taking all the cash flow we get from our properties, and going to be using some of our extra income from our W-2 as well to get that down. Because each month that you crush that HELOC principal, your cash flow will go up a little bit. So we're looking forward to the snowballs, starting to roll a little faster this year. With that said, if we do a cash out refi, I'm kind of going back and forth. Like, I want to have, in the next 2 years, I want 3 to 6 properties. So I don't know if I could sit on the sidelines the whole year. So that's why I'm kind of going back and forth with the cash out refi. And then do I go remote and buy, 2 properties with those funds, and kind of tie that up again? But then you've got, cash flow coming in from those. So those are the things I'm kind of battling with right now. But longer picture, like you said, 3 to 6. And I don't need 100 units. I don't need 50. Probably don't need 20. But I want to get to a point where you're at, Renee, which is just kind of being able to do this by myself for now, at least. Obviously, if I go remote, I'll need a property manager. Well, maybe not,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, but and kind of take it full time. Have that time freedom, have that work option. So
Yeah. So you're definitely saving money doing your own property management locally. If you did use a property manager when it's further away, they're going to be dipping into some of the cash flow. But I would really encourage you to try to handle it on your own and use them as like, and substitute like some of the tasks that you probably would do if you were local, like the inspections, the move outs. You can say, hey, can I hire you for a specific job here or there? Can you check on something? um, Instead of hiring them with a contract and being tied in for a long period of times. I don't know,
mhm.
just food for thought.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
Is your long-term goal, thinking of your kids and keeping them in mind, is to pay off the rental properties and hand them over a fully paid off business that's owned by LLCs and stuff, and then they just kind of tend to it?
Yeah, so both of our properties right now are under LLCs, and I think that is the goal. The shorter term goal, and when I say shorter term, I mean kind of, you know 3 to 5 to 7 years, is to have enough cash flow where we can pay most of our living expenses, and get closer to that work optional, if we so desire. We both really love what we do. My wife is like super passionate about what she does, and she'll never get out of the business. Um, but I would one day like to, be able to. I mean, I do it now, but be able to coach my kids as they're going through, sports and everything, and just never miss a big moment. So I just want that freedom to be able to be there. I mean, that's in life, all I really want to do is be the best husband and father I can be. So I just really honestly believe owning rental properties, while it might not be the fastest way, is the best way. So
Yeah. So, obviously there's a couple of different ways to go at it. If let's say you're shooting for 10,000, you know, rental income per month, and let's say you have all your reserves all saved up and everything, you got all your capex and all these funds and everything, and you got the 10K coming in, and that's what you're kind of living off of. And then you raise or lower the rents however the economy's doing. And the goal is just to kind of worry about like what is the number that I need instead of the door count, because you can have 20 doors give you 10K a month with more complexity, or you can maybe do it with 5 or 10 single families fully paid off with a higher net worth and less complexity. That's kind of my style. I would prefer to go single family, pay them off, and I'm in this for the long haul, and then have them owned by LLCs for the liability protection. How do you use your LLCs? How many do you have? And like, are each property got an LLC? How do you do that?
yeah, we have right now each property's under its own LLC. Um, I don't know if we have to, because I don't know this answer, because each property is in a different state, one in Mass, one in Rhode Island, if you can have both in the same LLC, or do they have to be registered in separate states? My attorney took care of that, thankfully, but I don't know if we could have both under the same, just because of the different states. But um, we're going to take the approach that we have each property under its own LLC, um, and kind of go from there. But like you said, I'm with you on that, Renee. I want to just get, it's a number. It's not a door count for me. It's a financial number.
Yeah.
So whatever that number is, whatever it turns out to be, that's kind of where we'll be at. But paid off, yeah. I guess I'm focused more on cash flow, to get those expenses covered, and then once we're there, taking extra stuff to get the principal balances
For
down.
me, I just have 3 LLCs. The structure, I want to see if I got it pulled up. I was trying to prepare some stuff. Can you see this right here?
No, I can't. I
Okay,
just
well,
kind
I
of see
got
your
a
logo.
triangle pulled up and I got 3 LLCs. I have a holding company LLC, I have a management company LLC, and I have a consulting company LLC. And I operate primarily under the consulting. So all my accounts and everything, when it comes to like emails and everything, I really just have to operate under this one um, email address, which is tied to my consulting company. And I actually pay my consulting company. My holding company pays the consulting company, and my management company pays the consulting company. And I'm providing services for all of them, websites, emails, and registered agent services. And I basically have another triangle where I show how all the companies pay each other, because I want to make sure this is reputable companies and I'm not tied to them and they can't pierce the corporate veil and stuff like that. So it gets a little messy with email accounts, because when you need to get business banking, you have a consulting business banking and a management and a holdings. And I'm like, crap, it was such a pain for me over the years. It took me forever to figure this out. But I set up my emails to all forward to the consulting email. And you have to know about domains and all this stuff. And I set this all up, and this is kind of the stuff I show on my school account. But I try to make this really convenient and easy for myself, because back to what I was saying before, if I die, I need my wife to just operate in one email address. And when she logs in, I use Mercury Banking. They're the best bank I've had. I've used over like 7 different business bankings and had different LLCs. You got to log in with one, log out, and then log in with this other one. And I have like multiple LLCs. So each LLC, I'm keeping books for all of them. So then I pay the register agent fee for the year and the filing fee for the year. Then I log out and I go to the next one and I do it again. It was just complex mess. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to create a consulting LLC, have the consulting LLC do all this dirty work, and I only have to operate on one email. So when I log into my business banking with Mercury, I see my other business bankings there. And Mercury's like a tech company. I can click and like switch between them very seamlessly. But when you first set them up, you got to treat them as different entities. So you have to have different emails, and you have to have all this stuff set up that it took me forever to figure out. But I had to pour myself into it to figure it out because I was forced. I was in Iraq. There was a real threat of me dying, and I needed to systematize everything. So that's some of the stuff that I show in the school that I'm sorry you couldn't see the little triangle thing, but 3 LLCs is enough. I pay off my rental properties, put them in the holding company. I have umbrella insurance and I have other stuff, but I can't have like a bunch of different LLCs and complexity and stuff when there's a risk of me not being here to kind of tend to everything. So
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just food for thought.
Yeah, I love it. I'll check it out too. The pyramid there. The triangle.
Yeah, thanks. And then under my management company, I fully function as a management company. I have a management LLC. I have a management email with FAQs. The management on the lease contract is hired by the holding company. So they're not showing my name on there. You'll see the holding company is the owner. The property management company is the management company. And my tenants don't know I'm running the whole show. They've actually wrote in handwritten letters saying Renee is the best property manager because they think that I'm an employee at a big company. And really, I just set it all up to have this aura. I call it the plain vanilla business advantage. I treat everything like a business. And when people ask me stuff, I say, well, let me get back with you. I got to get with the team and I'll check. And then a lot of times I refer them to the website FAQs. I refer them to the lease. And when they call, it goes to a voicemail and it tells them, hey, check your lease and all this stuff. I'm constantly trying to have them handle it. Because if you think about Google, there's no customer service. There's like forums and everything. Everybody's constantly trying to hand off the work to lower and lower to the end user. Self-checkout, self-driving cars. Soon, I believe if you can just hold on to your rentals long enough, one day they're going to scan their phone, go in, live there, do whatever they want. If something breaks, they say, hey, Google, Siri, fix this. It gets deducted. They pay it however. When they leave, they scan the barcode and they walk out. My goal is just to try to hang on to these properties as long as possible until these systems are developed even further than they are now.
Love that. So you're literally doing all of that because of the systems. You don't have any team members.
No, it's just me.
That's awesome. I love
yeah,
that.
I have a toll-free number, and that I don't communicate with them directly. Whenever stuff happens, I say we're sending out a technician, so there's a 3-step process for repairs. First, number 1 is they need to go straight to the home warranty, and I have a website with FAQ and it has a example of what's covered with the home warranty. So number 1, they should know they always go to the home warranty, and I have to train them a lot. Like, let me show you another thing that I have on here. You may not be able to see it, but there's circuits. I have like a light switch with light bulbs. Most landlords have one circuit, they flip the switch on, and then the tenant basically gets access directly to them and they help solve their problem. So it's a circuit that you turn on like business hours or whatever, all the lights are lit up, they can get to the landlord, and the landlord is available through email, phone or whatever, and they can direct them to the lease or help solve their problems, and it completes the circuit on the battery, like if there's 2 terminals. And that's called a series circuit. It's not as efficient as what I like is called the parallel circuit. So it's basically lights are on 24/7, but I get to turn off my business hours where my cell phone and my email is not available. Basically, the tenant has a problem. He goes down the circuit. Oh, my business hours turn off. He can't get me with my email and my cell phone because I'm in Iraq or whatever. But my website's up 24/7. My FAQs are up. My email portal for the tenants. And I have YouTube videos and stuff. And I constantly train them that way. So if they have a problem, say, hey, refer to your lease, you have a home warranty, and I send them the link to the FAQs. And in the future, if this happens, just make sure that you go to your lease, check the FAQs so you can solve this right away and you don't have to wait for me. Because some tenants, they don't listen. I have to do this a couple of times for them to learn the system. And then next thing you know, I'll be in Iraq and stuff will just get solved. Like the motor on a garage door must have stopped working. They go straight to the property or the home warranty company. They get it solved. They pay the technician the fee because I got all this built to my lease. And I just get an email, oh, it was taken care of. I didn't have to do nothing. But it does cost a little bit to carry that. And I didn't experiment. I hired a bunch of different home warranty companies. I would call them up, pretend I'm the tenant, seeing how they would handle this. And I found some ladies are just winging it. They have their own business, and what they do is they collect the monthly reoccurring like home warranty. But when there's a problem, you call the lady. She goes on and Googles and finds somebody and deals with it, sends somebody there, they fix it, and then she pays for that one. But she gets the residual income of always having contracts that it should cover her hiring like handyman and stuff. And I didn't like how unprofessional it was. It wasn't automated and stuff. I eventually settled on American Home Shield because they can go online, complete the steps, very simple. What's your address, what's your contract number, what's broken. It's all automated. You can even do it on the phone. You can hit 1 2 3 and it'll walk you through the whole process and say, okay, a technician will be contacting you within the next few hours. But you have to learn the ins and outs of that, and there's a bunch more I could say about that. But basically, you see how my mind is working. How do I systematize this? How do I take a back seat to these issues?
Love it. Love it. Yeah.
And
It's like very hands off, but very hands on at the same time. It's really, really smart.
yeah, thank you. You have to put in the effort up front to save you,
Exactly.
time and effort for later. It's kind of like sacrifice now so you don't have to sacrifice later.
Yeah.
Can you tell me how you go about collecting your rent right now? I did see a post that you said you use Rental Hero for bookkeeping. Is that still current?
Yeah, I use Rental Hero for like bookkeeping and for rent collection. One guy sends it through Zelle, and then the others use Venmo. So no real software there. The
Okay.
Rental Hero is just kind of the bookkeeping for everything, expenses, and then I'll input the rent just so all the balances are correct. But as far as collecting rent payments, I just use Zelle and Venmo at this
Okay.
point.
Does it go into a personal checking or a business checking?
Business.
Okay. And which LLC are you using for that? Are you using a management LLC?
We have a business. Yeah, they're both management actually
Okay.
for each account. Yep,
So you're operating the management under the same LLC that owns the house. So the landlord essentially is doing the management,
correct. Yep,
which is the LLC. Okay.
correct.
And then how do you communicate with your tenants? Is it your personal phone, personal email, or did you make like a business email or phone number?
Good question. So I have a business email for each LLC, and that's the email that I provided with them. And then I have just a Google Voice phone number that
Okay.
they can get me on.
Yeah, that's how I started off. I remember kind of not feeling so plain vanilla business advantage with that because they'd be like, hey, we're contacting the Google subscriber. Like when you're ringing, they know it's a Google. So
Yeah,
I eventually got a vanity number. It was like something that spelled out rent. And it was an 888 number because I'm trying to put that aura that it's a big company. So I
yep.
constantly had to vet all that. And I got a virtual address. What address do you use?
We use a PO box.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And then how do you go about rent increases? I saw you did a very clever, caring way of increasing the rent to stabilize it when you inherit tenants. But now, if you could tell that story, that'd be great. And then also, can you tell me how you go about rent increases with current existing tenants that you've had for a while?
Sure. So there was when we purchased our first property. It's three grown men, three roommates, hard workers, great guys. So they were paying 1650 a month, and the purchase price of the property, I had to get the rent up a couple hundred. Um, so it's our condo is three beds, 1.5 bath, 1,307 square feet. So market rent is between 19 and 2,100. I could have gotten for that. With that said, I got really good reviews from them, and I didn't want them to leave. I wanted them to stay put and be comfortable. So I did have to raise it just to make sure it got to the numbers that I needed it to get to. So I heard on a different podcast this system called the binder method. And about a month into their stay, after we purchased it, I approached the guy who makes the decision, who pays the rent, and I said, "Hey, unfortunately, I'm going to have to raise the rent. But I want to show you some things first." So what I did was I printed out 6 or 7, can't remember, comparable properties, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath, about 1,300 square feet within a 3 mile radius of where they're living. And every single one of them was between 19 and 2,100 a month. And again, they were paying 1,650. So I showed them that and I said, if you want to, I have to raise the rent. If you want to leave, I understand that. I really want you to stay, but if you want to leave, this is what you're going to be paying. It's just kind of what market rent is right now. So what I would like you to do is the three of you take a couple days and just talk amongst yourselves, come up with a number that you think is fair for both you and me, and we'll just talk about it then. So they came back, and I was hoping that they would get up to like 1,900, the lower end of market rent. But deep down, I was like 1,850 is the lowest I'm going because I needed that to make my numbers work. So they came back with 1,750, and I said I appreciate it. They got up $100 on their own. Great, good job. And then I came back and I said I really appreciate that. I was actually thinking 1,950. Can we just meet in the middle and call it 1,850? And he was like, absolutely, thank you so much. So he was thankful that his rent. I don't know if he was thankful, but he wasn't terribly upset. We'll put it that way. When his rent just went up $200 a month, and we've had them ever since we purchased the property, and they've just been they've never missed a payment. They've never been late. They're just really good people. So that is called the binder method. You show them 6 or 7 properties, what the market rents are now, and then say, I understand if you want to leave, this is what you're going to pay. Talk amongst yourselves. Let me know what you think is fair for both of us. And then you take your number, meet in the middle. If they go higher, if they would have came back to me with like 2,000, I would have said, all right, thank you so much. We'll settle on that. Great. But if not, you kind of meet them in the middle, and then they feel like they're being part of the decision. So it's not some jerk coming in, hey, I just bought this property. I'm raising your rent $300. Send the check next week. The other thing I did, Renee, was I waited 3 months for that to kick in. So just as another, courteous thing to, make it easier. So I waited 3 more months and then the increase went up so they could just prepare financially. So that's the binder method. And then as far as the tenants that are existing already, these new tenants that I have, that will just be a discussion. How I'm planning to do it will be a discussion 90 days in advance before they decide whether they want to stay and sign a new lease. So that's probably going to be 2 or 3%. Both people in our units are single mothers trying to do better for their children. So we're going to be very gentle on that, and they're good people, they're good families. We want them to stay. So we'll follow the market as far as rents go on that.
Okay, cool. Very good stuff, man. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think there needs to be more people getting outside their comfort zone and doing their rent increases, because I personally, I could be wrong here, but I think you're doing a disservice to your tenants if it's a landlord that never raises the rent. That's not the real world. I mean, I have lawn care services and termite treatments and all my bills, my business bills, hey, we need to increase it. We need to increase it. My property management software, everything is constantly coming at me increase. To live somewhere and expect that it would never increase is unrealistic. Even if you're a homeowner, your insurance goes up, your property taxes every single year automatically go up no matter what. It almost seems like crazy. So I really encourage landlords to take this serious. And also, you're leaving money on the table. I understand we care for them, but at the same time, you have to care for yourself and you have a responsibility for a family. So for me, I tried so many different things. I'll just tell you what I do. Maybe you can take it with a grain of salt, maybe consider it. I started building the rent increases into my lease. For now on, I'm just going to keep doing this. The first initial lease that I start with an unknown person after I vet them is always a 1 year. But when they sign that, in the rent increase section that I have in my lease, it says if you sign a 1 year renewal, rent is going to go up 3%, or let's say 5%, depending on what the market I'm trying to forecast out. But if you sign a 2 year lease, rent only goes up like 1%, 2%, or 5%, something lower as an incentive for them to sign longer with me, because I've been able to test them out, vet them for 1 year. If it's a bad tenant, I'm not going to be wanting to, renew it. I'll have to give them notice and something and say, hey, we're going to have to go different ways or something, because there has been high maintenance tenants where it's like, hey, I get the feeling that, you're not happy with the place. You're putting in a lot of work orders, and it just seems like it might be nitpicking, or you're just unsatisfied. And I just want to have a real conversation with you. Are you interested in like breaking a lease? Maybe I can talk to my supervisor and say, hey, she's been putting in a lot of, repair requests, and it seems like she's unhappy. can we maybe waive the early termination fee for her to let her out? But she's like, oh, no, no, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was coming across like that. And the next thing you know, she stopped putting in maintenance requests for everything. So I was like, okay. And I decided to like test the water a little bit, but I kept her and I do the same thing. 1 year, increase whatever percent to keep with the market, right?
Yep.
But if it's a 2 year, do a little bit less than that. So
Love
it
it.
kind of is upfront. There's no questions. If you sign here, you know what to expect if you're going to stay again. There's no getting surprised and feeling like the big bad landlord's taking advantage of me and they're just increasing. But I do like your binder strategy for inherited tenants for sure. I don't know if I want to devote that much effort into every time I do a renewal saying, hey, here's what's out here, because they kind of should be looking and doing their own research if they're
Yep.
somewhat unhappy or expecting to leave. But most of my tenants, I try to get single families and I want them to stay. And I do my best job at management because I want them to stay long term. And that's why I like single families, because people will fill up the garage and they'll get comfortable. They'll put their kids in school. So that 1 year, 2 year lease renewal kind of thing has been working for me. Something to consider.
I'm going to do that. Thank you,
Oh,
Renee.
cool.
It's very smart. Yeah.
Good. I'll share. I don't know if I put that in the school community yet, but make sure I show you the exact verbiage or whatever I have for like the 1 year. And that
Okay.
is an area that I'm always adjusting, the 1 year percentage versus the 2 year percentage. Because, like, I think the most recent one I had, a 1 year was going up 8%, or a 2 year was going up 5%, because rents have kind of been going high, you know?
Yeah, totally.
All
Love
right.
that.
So do you handle your own repairs? Because I did see some posts where you and your wife were painting doors and stuff.
Yeah. So that was the new two family. My wife like painted homes with her father when she was in high school, so she's really good at it. So when we purchased the two family, she redid the cabinets from a brown to white, and then painted the shed doors, the front doors, the side doors. So she's really good at that. So we took advantage of that, saved a little bit of money. We ripped out the carpets and put in the vinyl plank, that lifetime vinyl plank, um, to cut down on ripping up carpets. I don't like carpets in my properties anyways. And then we just did a few other repairs, added a washer and dryer to one of the units, um, to help get the rent up that way a little bit. And we hire out most anything we can't do, we'll hire out. I had a stuck drain in the sink a few months, like a month ago. Went to the property, tried to, use this little drain genie thing from Home Depot, and it's like this big, it's not going anywhere. And then I had to call in the pros, and he's like, "Yeah, you weren't going to get that. It was 15 feet down." I was like, "All right, good." It made me feel better that my
Yeah.
wife's like, "You couldn't unclog a drain," and I was like, "No, he told me it was 15 feet down." She's like, "All right, you're lucky. I won't bash you then." But we'll hire out the hard stuff to the professionals if we can take care of it ourselves. I'll give that a shot first. I like to be I guess I like to do things like self-manage and try things first on my own. And if I fail, kind of look at that as a learning opportunity and not, take it so hard on myself. So that's kind of my approach for those things.
Cool. Do you trying to think, um I guess the lifespan of certain things, do you track and anticipate, like, when a major expense might be coming up so you can save accordingly for that?
Totally. I like to get ahead of that, Renee. Like water heaters and stuff, make sure those, have the dates on them, and make sure we just replace before they flood the basement or wherever they are. Roofs, we know both of them on our properties are 5 to 7 years old, and in good shape at this point. But all the CapEx stuff, yes, we have a budget for, and we do keep dates of all of those items.
Good. When you go there to handle, like, some of the small, like, normal home maintenance stuff that a homeowner would do themselves, do they know you're the landlord showing up, or do they think that you might be a property manager?
Yeah, they think I'm the property manager.
Very
I
good.
take that similar, not to the level where you do as far as the systems and how professional you have everything with the phone numbers and the setups, but yeah, they do. They think I'm the property manager, and I'll get back. I'll check in with my team and get back to you on that. Then I
Yeah.
I tell them that I'm the hands-on guy in this area, wherever the properties are. But yeah, I see them sometimes.
Yeah, I would definitely like to add a lesson I had to learn, something kind of similar with that. I had a single mother that had adopted kids, and she knew I was the landlord, and I was early on in my career, and she used to often come up with like excuses, like problems, and I'd be very caring with her and kind of helping with her. And I thought it was after the fact. I know it's because she knew I was the decision maker and she can go direct to me. And if I would make exceptions, it's kind of like the rules are like up to me and I can decide everything. So she ended up lying to me that she had cancer to break the lease early without me charging her the early termination fee. And I only found out because the neighbor told me after I was there, like doing an inspection and fixing it up and stuff. So just something to keep in mind, what you're doing good. As long as you separate yourself and handle it like a business and you do the property manager, they won't be so eager to try to abuse the system or take advantage of you if they know it's like a business. So that's why I run it like that, because I don't want to make that
Love it.
mistake anymore, because I don't even know how I could have handled it. Even if I don't know, what would you do if your tenants tell you a lie like that? That is very serious and they know you're the landlord. It's hard.
Yeah, man. Probably set up the same systems you did afterwards, and just take it as a learning opportunity. And just you passing that on to me helps me, so I appreciate that. But yeah, that's a tough one, man. As a caring person, it's I'd be in a tough spot there if someone told me that they have cancer, and you know, I
I'm
don't know
kind
what
of
I don't know how I'd play that.
Yeah, I know it was a touchy subject right there, but
Yep.
I'm kind of glad it happened earlier on. So it helped push me in the right direction, because if you said that to a real business, they would not be able to make exceptions for you. I'm sorry, this is horrible. Do you have family? Do you have anybody who can help you out? Or
Yeah.
what about, do you want to stay to the end of the lease? That's how I should have handled it if it was like a business. But man, when they come straight to you and they know you're the owner, like, it's heart wrenching.
Yeah,
All
it's
right,
tough.
so I've had lots of your time already. I'm going to try to close this out. I'm not a professional. I'm just winging this like I told you before we started. But I do
I'm
have a
enjoying it,
couple
man.
of what?
I said I'm enjoying it. I appreciate it.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I do have some signature questions that I want to try to get in the habit of asking people. And one is, do you think housing should be a human right in America where the government like it's involved in providing it?
Wow, good question. I think everyone should have a safe, warm roof over their heads each night and have the same opportunities as everyone else in the country.
Yeah, I do too. It's just a matter of like, do we want the government involved in it? Because you're a great landlord. I can tell. I'm trying to be a good landlord. The small mom and pop landlords, we take pride in what we do. And I think we shouldn't be like hated on. Like, so many people hate landlords, and it's different to big corporate, hedge fund and stuff like that. And they're increasing the rent and they're very strict and they have employees and all this stuff.
Yeah,
But I don't think there should be rent control and make it harder for people to be landlords. I don't think it should be shunned upon. I do not think there's anything wrong having like 4 or 5 rentals. People will be like, oh, they're stealing up all the houses and that's why it's all expensive, because the landlords are pushing up the price. But they forget to look at the other side. We're providing a safe place and we're fixing it up. We're pouring our hearts into this and passion of real estate. If the government was involved, I've been in military housing like on base, and they make you share a community kitchen. It's always dirty because there's nasty dirtbag people in there not cleaning up after themselves. They make you share bathrooms and you're taking showers with everybody's naked. And it's a crappy chow hall with just crappy like prison food. The government is not the best at pushing the envelope and trying to be resourceful and like clean and best, and you know what I mean, like a capitalist society. So I think it's a little touchy, but I do see where you're coming from. I believe everybody should have that, especially if you need it.
sure.
It's just, how
I will
does
agree with
government?
you the fact that, mom and pops, small landlords like myself, there's the personal touch, and we care about the people that we put in there, and we care about the properties themselves. It's not really a numbers game. It is when you're purchasing them, but when you see the people who are living there and you operate it like a business. You hold yourself and your tenants accountable, but you realize there are actual human beings under your roof. That's a tremendous responsibility and something that I take very seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. So my last other question would be like either what's your biggest real estate investing failure or big important lesson as far as like landlording lesson goes, like if you were going to give a landlord advice to like newbies and stuff.
Yeah, man. Lesson. You know what? I'll never buy. So this two family is an up down. I'll never buy another up down again. That's my biggest learning lesson so far. I will if I buy another two family, it's going to be side by side. Um, they they've had a couple minor things, just like noise, or someone was smoking on the property when they're not supposed to be. So up down condos, stay away. That's what I'm telling myself from now on. That's probably my biggest lesson so far. Also, over when it comes to repairs, just tack on a third to what you think it's going to be.
Very good. I like it. I have a ideal rental criteria checklist that I have in the school community where you really like a fine tooth comb go through everything and you put all that stuff. And when you were saying that, I was like, man, I didn't put anything like that in there because I'm trying to get you thinking of stuff that you don't consider. These are the type of things you figure out once you own it and you're in too deep. And that's not a major deal breaker thing, but it is kind of like an inconvenience that you can avoid now. And if that's on that ideal rental checklist, if a new person's looking for rentals, it's like, you know what, that's a good point. I never thought about that. I can avoid that.
Totally. Yeah, that's a good tool there.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I'll share it with you. I hope you get in there.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
so here's the final
Yeah.
questions. I just got like maybe some feedback. This is very sloppily thrown together. Don't hold anything against me, please. But did you ever reach out and contact a person called Lawrence Briggs?
Oh gosh, no, you hold me accountable right now, aren't you? No. So when I was on Aaron's podcast, he asked me why I hadn't. Lawrence Briggs, man, he's very inspiring to me. From Louisiana and grew up in a tough setting, and creating his own path, and just his story is so damn inspiring to me. And we'll comment on each other's posts on X, but I have not sent him a direct message to actually talk together yet, but I need to. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Because I saw Aaron said, "Hey, why not do it?" When I was watching that podcast, I just forgot. So I was like, I gotta make sure I ask him that. Because at the end, I try to give feedback because I put time and effort into looking up people that is willing to do a podcast with me. They don't know me, and you're taking a risk and you're putting yourself out there. So I'm trying to like, how can I be helpful in some way? So I was like, yep, gotta follow up, accountable on that. When also one thing I wanted to say is when you said that you're on X and you're documenting your journey and you're inspiring people and you want to connect and all this stuff, something that resonated with me that maybe it was mixed in there, I just want to make sure I say it, is part of that leaving an inheritance for your children's children. When you document stuff like this and you're on camera and you're talking to strangers and you're helping and you're pouring yourself out there and all this, that shows your character. And let's say we're gone, our kids will be watching this. So it's really cool that you're documenting it even for your own benefits, but it leaves like a inheritance kind of behind because people can see who you are and get to know you and all that stuff.
Yeah, I love that, Renee. You're absolutely right. And one thing I also do for my kids, I just they each have their own email account, and I just shoot them little emails here and there.
That's
And
cool.
some
That's
of them
awesome.
are about real estate, others are just picture them together, saying, "Make sure you always love each other as much as you do now, and make sure you take care of your mother." Because you never know. Something like you said could happen. You and I could be gone one day. Will be one day, and that's kind of something to leave behind. So I've been shooting them emails. They don't know about the account; they're way too young, obviously. But when they turn 18, I'm gonna let them read them, and that's just another way to kind of document and just realize that what they have has been worked very hard for. So thanks for bringing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You're welcome, dude. Awesome. So I can tell you're very genuine. You're humble. That's part of the reason why I think so many people are drawn to you on X. Your encouragement that you're posting everything, man, it's awesome. And you've said a couple times even here, I've saw posts about it. When you say good human being, can you define that? What would you be in like 1, 2 sentences? Could you define it for somebody else? They're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean good human being?
be a good human being, man. Just be a good human being. Care for others. I think making a stranger, I've said this on X, make a stranger smile. Do something that is going to catch someone by surprise. In today's world, people just looking down at their phones, just hurry up, rushing. Like, hold the door. If you're in Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, they're in front of you or they're behind you in line, they're going to be buying the same thing you are. Buy it for them. Shock somebody. Do something nice for somebody. So make a stranger smile. Um, don't attack each other, and just kind of remember we're all here trying to do the best that we can. So that's kind of be a good human being.
Absolutely love it. You the man. So I got like four last little things I want to get to, and then we'll be done here. You're awesome. I just want to let you know I'm really enjoying this. This is great.
Likewise. Thank you.
You're welcome. I saw that you're very caring with your tenants and taking care of your property and everything. At one time you drove all the way over there and you met a landscaper. He wasted your time and stuff. I was like, man, I want to share my self-service property management ideas with you because I don't want you to waste your time like that. And I know you're valuable. And if it takes away from your son or your daughter, maybe you bring them with you, but still, I always try to avoid letting anybody waste my time. So I was thinking, how could I suggest some help or something? Can you explain, now that you know that it happened when the landscaper wastes your time, how could you avoid that from happening again? Like, what would you change differently?
Man. Yeah, I mean, the day before, so I called three landscapers to try and get some drainage, some better drainage in our backyard to get the water going away from the property. Called three landscapers that were all, recommended by neighbors and friends who have used them in the past. Only one of them picked up the phone, first of all. So he got my business. And then, we scheduled it for a week out. And the day before I called him and I said, hey, just gonna make sure you'll be there at 10 a.m. tomorrow, right? Yep, you got it, Mike. We'll see you then. I showed up at 9:55 and 10:15 rolls around. I called. He's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Something came up. I'll be there in like 15 minutes." And that just kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. So I let him give me the estimate, and he didn't hear back from me again. And I hired another company. But to avoid doing that again, maybe call them before I leave the house and say, "Hey, I'm about to leave. It's 15 minutes or it's 40 minutes if the other property." Minutes away from me. I'm about to leave my house. Are you leaving right now as well? That'd probably be how I play that. But I have a feeling you have a better system in place.
Oh, I love this stuff, man. This is fun for me. Pretend you're in Iraq, you're in a backwards time zone, and you can't even communicate with this guy when it's his business hours. So, what I had to do is have that contractor go direct with the tenant to get the tenant's schedule so the tenant can be there and go one-on-one with that guy, walk him around, show him they're the one living there. It's their problem. They're just as much invested in fixing it as you are, even though you want to do it because you're local. I would just recommend trying to pretend that you're in Iraq. Like, what would Renee do if his hands are tied behind his back? Because I was thinking that contractor, that was really disrespectful and that's not good. I almost wish you can give him a bad rating because that's unprofessional. He should know if it's his service area or not and not waste people's time. Anyways, I would just recommend, hey, try to use your tenant, recruit your tenant in this process and say, hey, I got a contractor. Even if you want to hire them, give the contractor the tenant's information. Then you tell the tenant in an email, because I always like to communicate via email. That's something I learned from my real estate attorney friend here. He has a law firm and he says his primary means of communication is email to serve as a record for both you and us. So I will text the tenant and say, hey, we just sent you an email. Please check your email. But I have it all documented in emails and you can archive that stuff, just keeping it a little bit more professional there. Also, another thing came to mind was repairs and man, there's so much I want to say and I can't get it out fast enough. And it's exciting. What you tell me what you think of that. Maybe I'll figure it out while you're talking. Do you have anything to say?
No, I mean, I'm trying to think. I've learned a lot from you. I'll tell you that much. This is our first conversation, like you said, and I can't wait to go take a deep dive into your website and kind of learn more about the school as well. But I'm kind of pumped about that. I just want to, keep learning every single day and making connections exactly like this. So I appreciate the conversation. I've learned so much, so many good takeaways already.
You're welcome, man. I appreciate it too. I didn't remember it, but I will tell you the last three things I have. One is I would recommend getting a BBB accreditation page. You don't have to pay for the accreditation, but all you got to do is reach out to the BBB in your area and say,
Okay.
"Hey, I got an LLC, a management company. I'd like to be put into your system." And then since you're doing such a good job taking care of these properties with your tenants and stuff, ask them when they leave part of the survey or the outbound processing and all that you got to go through. To ask them to leave a BBB review for you. It won't show
Gotcha.
that you're accredited unless you pay for it. I don't pay for it either, but I always ask. I'm trying to collect those. Also, another thing that I think would be helpful is something I do. My accountant here said I'm allowed to write off $25 for a gift for each property for each tenant. And what I do is each Christmas I go on Amazon.com, my business Amazon.com, and I log in. I do it all virtually online because I can do this from my rack. And I type in the first tenant's name and a little like Merry Christmas, Happy New Year thing. And I email them a $25 gift card. I do it to each property. And at the end of the year, I can write those off. I get that back as a business deduction. And that's part of kind of like really caring for the tenant. And hopefully they give you a good review too.
Oh, I love that. That's a good tip. I'm gonna take advantage of that too. Love
Cool.
that.
One of your pictures I did see, I saw you, I think you said you owned the one on the right. And I noticed the one on the left had a handrail and yours didn't. Do you have a handrail, or maybe that picture just didn't show the handrail or something? I wanted to ask about that. I put a side note here.
On the stairs and the front entrance.
Yeah. There's like
Well,
three steps.
yeah. We did add one there because
Oh, good.
the home inspector had us do that.
Yeah, because that's one of the things on the ideal rental checklist, your handrails, limiting liability. Like I try to only go for single families now because
Hmm.
stairs, slip and falls, like you'll be driving down the road and you'll see huge billboards. Hey, slip and fall, win $1 million. It's like the new lottery nowadays. So I'm just trying to
Yeah,
do whatever I can to kind of look out for that.
yeah. We actually
But
added a handrail in our shared entrance on the two family. There was a handrail going to the upstairs unit, but there wasn't one heading down. So the inspector there caught that one too, and we had our contractor add that when he was doing some other stuff. So
smart, good stuff.
limiting liability is a number one for
Yeah, I'm
sure.
just trying to look out and I saw it and I was like, I don't want to
Yeah,
not ask or say something because what if I could try to help out there? The very last
yeah.
thing I have is I don't know if you've considered this strategy, but in Florida we have a good homestead protection. Do you know about homestead? Did you file homestead for your primary residence where you live?
Primary, yes, we
Okay.
did.
So a strategy to consider to get more money, because I heard you mention it earlier on in the conversation about a refinance cash out of your
Mhm.
primary residence. Some people will max out the debt on their primary residence because they know there's special protections in place. They got a homestead protection if you're in a good state and all that. Then they take that extra money and they deploy that and invest it. That's kind of a strategy I did because I did a refinance cash out and I built a apartment, and
Nice.
it cost way more and it took longer. It was a big learning experience for me, but it's a long-term investment. I think it'll take 8 years for me to actually recoup all of it. But
Nice.
anyways, it's a strategy that I actually decided because I was, strapped for capital and I was like, you know what? Homestead is a good protection and I need some capital. I want to invest. So that's what I did. So I would just tell you that I did it and something to consider for you.
Absolutely. I'll dig into that as well.
All
Another
right,
option.
man. So that concludes everything. I think we've been on here a little bit more than an hour. I apologize if I went too long, but at the very end of this, will you tell us how we can contact you so I can go ahead and get off here?
Yeah, sure. I am on X at Inspired Landlord, and the Lord part is just LRD, no O, Inspired Landlord. And then my website is inspiredlandlord.com.
Got it. You're awesome. Super gracious with your time, everything. That this concludes the podcast. I appreciate it. You guys see you later.